My first introduction to the Xenoblade series was the same as most people, that being Shulk's addition to Smash 4. Also, like most people, I didn't know who he was. When Smash 4 actually came out, I only thought of him as that guy with the shirtless ult and backslash. But May 2020, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition was released. I had no prior knowledge of the original, but Zelda Master started playing it when it came out, and I was like, hey, that's Shulk, I know that guy. Now even as recording this, he hasn't uploaded part 3, but the first 2 videos were enough to get me interested. I picked up the game and I loved it so much I played through it twice, back to back. The interesting combat, beautiful areas, gripping story, and such lovable characters. Shulk has become my favorite video game protagonist because of my experience with this game. After I was done with Xenoblade 1 for the second time, I started looking at the sequel. I was pretty skeptical about this game at first, as I hadn't heard the nicest things about it. I saw so many videos bashing this game and saying it was complete garbo, but I decided, hey, it can't be that bad, right? I figured since I really enjoyed the first one, and the reviews for this game were fairly good, I would give it a shot. And boy oh boy am I glad I did. I enjoyed Xenoblade Chronicles 2 so much. Its combat is far more interesting than the original. We're provided with even more great areas, the story is still very strong, the characters are still amazing, and the soundtrack is out of this world. For those who haven't played the game, do not worry, I will be keeping this video spoiler free, and I also want to mention that you do not need to play the first Xenoblade to experience this game. They're 2 completely different stories, so you don't need to worry about Xenoblade 1 being spoiled either. Hopefully by the end you'll understand why I was so stoked during the last Nintendo Direct. Please smash.
I got
Yes! Yes! Oh my gosh! Yes! I really do hope this video will be able to show people that this game isn't weeaboo anime trash or whatever. This game has so much to offer and it's such a fantastic experience all the way through. Without further ado, let's get started. One of the biggest complaints I hear about Xenoblade 2 is the slow, uninteresting combat. If you think this, the chances are you probably don't understand it too well, which is okay. The game doesn't do the greatest job of introducing the mechanics. To be fair, with such a complex battle system, it's a bit difficult to explain it in the first place. But once the combat gets going, it really gets going. I'll do my best to summarize it real quick. Essentially, you have multiple levels of attacks, the most basic being auto attacks, which do little damage but are used to build up the meter for your arts. Arts are stronger and they can have different effects, whether that be healing, increased damage from hitting an enemy a certain way, reducing aggro, and much more. Using arts will build up a meter for your specials. Specials are even stronger than arts, and there are different elements based on which character you're using. You can use specials of different elements and levels to create something called a blade combo. This places an orb of the corresponding element on the enemy, which you can use for chain attacks. The more orbs you have in an enemy, the longer a chain attack can be, and the more damage it will do. Early game, you can get away with just using auto attacks, arts, and the occasional special, but this won't fly as you get further into the game. You'll have to start planning out what orbs you'll be putting on the enemy, and how you're gonna get them. This was a pretty quick description of the combat, and there are quite a few mechanics I've left out, but my point is that it gets really engaging with everything you can do. The game starts feeling more quick-paced when you fully take advantage of all the tools at your disposal. You have so many options and strategies to formulate, but it's not turn-based, so you can't just sit there and take your time to think about your next move. Xenoblade 2 forces you to think on your feet, making battles feel more intense. When people say this game's combat is slow and unengaging, it's most likely because they haven't properly utilized the mechanics, and they're relying on auto attacks and arts alone to take out the enemies. That's like grabbing and throwing in Smash, but not using down throw to combo into anything else. In the original Xenoblade, you had 8 arts per character, and you would use them and then have to wait for them to recharge. In Xenoblade 2, you're in charge of building those arts back up, as they're only usable after the meter is filled up by auto attacking. This forces you to engage in combat, so you can't just camp for arts while the enemy aggroes someone else. Instead of 8 arts per character, you have 3 per blade. In the world of Xenoblade 2, you have drivers and blades. For example, Rex is his driver and Pyra is his blade. Rex holds Pyra's sword while she transfers power behind him so he can use specials and whatnot. During combat, you can switch between 3 different blades per character. Each blade has different moves at their disposal, so this leaves you with 9 different arts to utilize during battle. Again, the combat goes much more in depth than what I've just described, but I assure you, it's so well done. The battle system's a bit intimidating at first, but as soon as you understand it, it's an absolute blast. Like with any JRPG, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 offers a very large amount of side content. The side content mainly includes side quests, blade quests, and heart-to-hearts. The great thing about these is that they're completely optional. They're there for players who want to experience them, but players that don't want to can completely avoid them. Xenoblade 2 lets you experience the game at your own pace. The side quests are fairly standard for a JRPG, but they do provide you with helpful rewards, and more importantly, experience. The side quests provide another way to gain experience, which is far more engaging than mindlessly grinding away at weak enemies to level up. Xenoblade 2 also has a certain mechanic when it comes to leveling up, that being sleeping at inns. When you sleep at an inn, you can decide what level you want to be, and level up using the experience you've gained from side quests and discovering new areas. This way, you can control whether or not you're overleveled or underleveled pretty easily. If you're a completionist and go after every side quest, you don't have to worry about the game being too easy by being super overleveled. The game also provides a way to improve the battle capabilities of your blades, that being blade quests. Blade quests are unique in a way that they provide cutscenes. I really like this addition. They could have easily just thrown some text on a screen, but they went through the effort to animate extra, optional scenes that really bring the characters to life. The cutscenes made blade quests far more engaging while providing more context to the world and characters. Heart-to-Hearts also did a phenomenal job when it comes to providing more context to the world and characters of Xenoblade 2. Heart-to-Hearts are essentially optional cutscenes featuring around 2 to 5 characters, in which you make a decision as to what a character will say in a conversation. These were in the first Xenoblade as well, but the difference here is now they're voice acted, they feature more than 2 characters most of the time, and you don't need an affinity requirement to access them. Heart-to-heart conversations could be about literally everything. Some of them are there to provide backstory to the characters and flesh them out even more, whereas others are just there for a quick laugh. Overall, heart-to-hearts are done great in this game, and I encourage anyone watching to check them out when you come across them. The side content of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is so great, due to both the quality and the quantity. Side quests, blade quests, and heart-to-hearts are all done so well, and the sheer amount of them will leave you with hundreds of hours of gameplay to enjoy. When it comes to Nintendo games, they usually aren't that visually impressive. This isn't the game developer's fault, the Switch just doesn't have the same processing power as Xbox or PlayStation consoles. But saying Xenoblade 2 looks good is quite the understatement. Everything from this game's areas to cutscenes look absolutely gorgeous. Every area looks so unique and different from the others. The world is designed to encourage you to explore, something you won't get tired of in this game. The worlds feel so lively and complete. You could spend ages exploring every nook and cranny of the map, and it's truly a magnificent experience. The areas feel so free as well. It doesn't restrict you with invisible walls and force you to find a specific path. If you want to jump off a cliff, go right ahead. A very significant part of nearly every JRPG are the cutscenes, which this game has a lot of, and I gotta say, they look pretty clean. A lot of the fight scenes are done by the same team that does those high-quality Smash reveal trailers we all love. Even with the limitations of the Switch hardware, the cutscenes are still a joy to watch. But cutscenes aren't all visual. Voice acting is also very important. Unfortunately, this is one of the biggest complaints I hear about Xenoblade 2. The thing is, the issues with the English dub of the game have been blown way out of proportion. People talk about it like it's the worst thing they've ever heard and it makes their ears bleed. Realistically, Rex sounds like a race car when he screams in the beginning of the game, but that's about it. If you can get over that, there's no issue at all. Besides, there's some pretty great VA performances in this game. Some of my favorites are Nia, Vandam, Pyra, Mithra, and Malus. I also really like the diversity of accents they gave the characters. In Xenoblade 1, every character was British, but here, we got different accents depending on which area in the game you're in. It's a nice touch, and it's more realistic. For example, in Gormott, you've got Welsh with characters like Nia. In Uriah, you've got your Aussies, Ardain is Scottish, and all the blades are American. The English dub is pretty impressive when you look at everything it has to offer, rather than just Rex. Even after all that, if you still really hate it that much, you can always switch to Japanese. Another pretty significant part of video games is the soundtrack, and boy oh boy, Xenoblade 2 shines in this department. To be honest, Xenoblade 2 has the strongest video game OST I've ever heard. And I've played quite a few games with great music. The greatest thing about Xenoblade 2 music is there's so many different types of songs, and they all serve their purpose so well. The area themes are so interesting, usually pretty lengthy and having multiple parts, using different melodies and instruments as well. It's easy to tell how much effort was put into making these songs the very best that they could be. They aren't just some loop, they're impressive orchestral pieces. Gormott and Ardain are probably my favorite area themes. They both suit the areas they're played in so well, and they really complement them by encouraging you to explore them. battle themes are just as great. They excel in making boss fights more fun, engaging, epic, and they're just a joy to listen to in the first place. You Will Recall Our Names, Bringer of Chaos, and Incoming are some of the best. Last, but certainly not least, we have cutscene music. In addition to super clean visuals and pretty great voice acting, music makes these scenes even greater than they were already. Songs like Counterattack make you so stoked about the battles. But Xenoblade 2 also knows how to make you emotional with its OST. I cannot stress enough how amazing Drifting Souls and One Last You are. These are both songs that have vocal performances, amazing ones at that. Everything from beautiful melodies, fantastic instrumental, and heartbreaking lyrics. These songs do more than just serve their purpose. Drifting Souls is played a few times throughout the game, and only when our heroes are really suffering. This song does such a phenomenal job of setting the mood, as it sounds sad but hopeful at the same time. One Last You is the credits song, and it plays during the final cutscene of the game as well. This song is already super well done, but in the context of the game's ending, the lyrics hit you so hard. This is a spoiler-free video, so I won't say anything, but just trust me, it works so freaking well. So well, that made me cry, and I'm not the only one. The music of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is just absolutely incredible through and through. The story and characters of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 are probably my favorite part of this game. I'm not going to spoil the story because I really want anyone who hasn't played it to be able to experience it blind. However, I will explain why I love it so much. I've heard people say it starts out slow, which I don't completely agree with. I can kind of see where they're coming from, but by the end of Chapter 1, I was completely hooked. This game establishes your protagonist, deuteragonist, antagonist, and your main objective pretty quickly. From there, your true adventure with Rex and Pyro begins. Similar to the combat of the game, once the story gets going, it really gets going. Considering the main story takes at least 60 hours to complete, it's pretty impressive how it can keep you hooked for that long. It's full of ups and downs, ones that will get you super hyped, whereas others will have you on the verge of tears. It's truly a roller coaster of emotions. I can't talk too much about the story without spoiling it, but just trust me when I say it's really dang good. Something else I love about this game is how you get so many great moments that flesh out the characters by establishing their personalities and giving you plenty of character interactions.
Say, chum, which one do you fancy? Pyra or Mithra?
Zeke.
It really makes them feel like real people. As a result, it's so easy to like and sympathize with them. You really get so attached to each and every single one of them as you play through the campaign. It gets to the point where you're cheering for them in battle. You feel so proud of them when they overcome obstacles and grow as characters, and it hits you like a ton of bricks when they lose. I'm aware it sounds kind of weird, it just goes to show how well written the characters are.
Then I will have to restrain you by force.
In that case, I'll make this nice and clear. You will never take her!
And let me just say, Rex is a much better character than people say he is. Rex is only 15 years old, he lives by himself, and he's already making a living because he works his butt off at salvaging. And it's not like he keeps all this money to himself. He's been sending most of it to his hometown, Fonset. His parents aren't even around anymore, but he's still making it work out, and he's still supporting those who aren't even related to him. In addition, he gets hired for a salvaging job and gets paid $100,000 up front. You know what he does with that money? He gives 90,000 of it to his hometown. That's literally 90%. How many teenagers do you know that would do that out of the kindness of their heart? If you can't respect that at all, I don't know what to tell you. Even if Rex is a little cringe, he absolutely redeems himself late game. Some of his lines get you right in the heart, and it becomes so easy to appreciate his character. He does not deserve all the hate he gets. Something that was missing in the first Xenoblade was character backstory. I love my man Ryan, but I have no idea who he was before the events of Xenoblade 1. This was something Xenoblade 2 fixed, and I'm so glad they did. Literally every single party member has their backstory explained in this game, and it's great. Once again, it makes them feel like real people who have lived lives before this game. All in all, the story of Xenoblade 2 is gripping, emotional, and engaging all the way. And all the lovable characters are so well written, making the experience feel even better and more complete. I'm honestly surprised that there aren't more people talking about this game, considering how good it is. I'd go as far as to say that Xenoblade 2 is mad underrated. Now 2 million sales is still a lot, but there's so many mediocre Switch games out there that have sold far more, like ARMS and 1-2-Switch. Heck, Pokemon Sword and Shield sold 10 times the copies that Xenoblade 2 did. Something I asked myself when I finished this game was, why didn't I play this sooner? It's such a shame that barely any people have experienced this magnificent adventure, and I really hope this video will let people have that experience. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is not a perfect game, no game is, but there's so many things it does so right. I've only scratched the surface of Xenoblade 2 in this video, but I hope what I presented today was enough for you to give Xenoblade 2 a chance. Obviously, not everyone is gonna like every game, but if you're looking for an engaging combat system, beautiful graphics, banger music, incredibly well-written characters, an emotional story, hundreds of hours of content, and just a fantastic JRPG in general, you should definitely pick up Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I promise you, you won't regret it.